Hi everyone. Today we're going to start our newest unit, Wild West. So this is going to be all about the people who chose to move across the United States into the West. To begin, we're going to be thinking about this quote by Anna Howard Shaw. On every side and at every hour of the day, we came up against the relentless limitations of pioneer life. So when I think about the word limitations, I think about constraints. So a limit is a restriction of how far you can go. So for example, a limitation that my dog has is the end of his leash when we're on a walk. He can't go any further than that. So if we're thinking about the limitations of pioneer life, I think about lots of hardships that they were facing. So every hour and of every day, they're coming up against these things that are making life very difficult. Throughout this unit, we're going to be thinking about the essential question: what character traits were needed in people who settled the West? What made people want to leave their comfortable homes on the East Coast? Why were they willing to leave people that they knew for something that they had never even seen? So as we read each different text, we're going to add on to our knowledge map: Western pioneers, character traits. So when I think about character traits, I'm not thinking about how a person looks. Those would be a person's physical traits. A character trait is how somebody acts. So a character trait could be brave. It could be kind. We're going to be thinking about a lot of our Positivity Project character traits. So some of the things that they're suggesting is that pioneers were not easily discouraged. They were hardworking. They were looking for a better life, and they were courageous. So as we read each of the texts, we're going to add examples onto each of the branches to show how these character traits were embodied by the pioneers. So to begin with, we're going to watch our Get Curious video, which will tell us a little bit more about what life was like for the early pioneers.
Howdy, Ida.
Howdy, Oscar. Sorta nice we get to ride together today. How'd you sleep last night?
Oh, the howling of the coyotes always keeps me up a bit.
Better than a pack of howling wolves.
I know. Last night, I couldn't stop thinking about all the dangers we faced on our epic journey out west.
Me too. My sister and I stayed up half the night talking about it, till Ma said she'd have us collecting buffalo chips all day if we didn't cut it out.
Yuck. I reckon the stuff makes a great fire, though.
Yup. Well, remember how terrifying it was when the cattle stampeded?
I can still hear their thunder and hooves, almost as loud as that lightning storm.
And just a week later, 2 folks were hit by a wagon when a horse got spooked by a rattlesnake.
The mountains were the worst. We nearly froze ourselves to death in the snow.
Then Joe lost his wagon crossing that creek. He lost all the clothes and tools he'd brought from home.
You just never know what'll happen next.
Like when those Shoshone hunters appeared out of nowhere yesterday. I was shaking when I saw them. I wasn't sure how they feel about us pioneers traveling over their native lands.
I know, but we could learn a lot from their knowledge of this Midland territory. Hey, is it true that your pa was able to trade with them?
Sure is. We traded some salt for fresh caught rabbit and buffalo meat. Finally, something besides the same old crackers and beans for supper.
Wowee! Rabbit and buffalo? Delicious!
What would you have liked or disliked about being a pioneer?
Today, our learning target is I can analyze the use of text structure. So when we think about text structure, you're going to be familiar with this because we've talked about it with several previous texts. So we want to know, did the author set it up so that they are comparing and contrasting how things were alike and different? Were they showing us a cause and effect to explain what happened and why it happened? Were they presenting the information in logical or sequential order? So trying to explain things in an order of events or in order of importance? Or is the author trying to show something as a problem and then a solution? So a problem and then how it is solved. Our first text is called Why Go West? So right now I'm going to have you follow along with me as I read. And we're going to be thinking about why is it that people are going west? And as we read, we want to think about how is the author organizing different sections. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can see it better. Why go west? Lots of people make a checklist before they travel so that they won't forget anything important. During the 1800s, thousands of people might have used a checklist like this one. They left their homes and migrated to undeveloped western sections of the United States. What made them do it? Leave almost everyone. Check. Leave almost everything. Check. Take a chance on something new. Check. Head west. Check. The chance to own land. Some saw the chance to become landowners. President Thomas Jefferson bought the Louisiana Territory from France in 1803. Known as the Louisiana Purchase, the new lands doubled the size of the United States. Free or inexpensive land was there for the taking. And it wasn't long before thousands of people from inside and outside the United States looked to the American West and saw opportunity. However, the growth of the United States wasn't a victory for everyone. During this period, Native Americans lost their homelands as settlers and pioneers moved west. Many tribes were forced to live elsewhere, and some native cultures were nearly wiped out. So if we look at this picture, we see examples of covered wagons, as it would have looked like for pioneers. The chance for a fresh start. Some people made the journey west in hopes of starting anew. They believed the long, dangerous trip was worthwhile if it led to a better life. Many had faced hard times with growing families and few ways to make enough money to support them. Hopeful news from friends and relatives who had already gone west encouraged more and more families to relocate too. Many settlers followed the popular Oregon Trail, with some taking it all the way to its end in the Pacific Northwest. They loaded up covered wagons for their epic journey across the Midland Plains and over mountains. Determination kept these travelers going through challenges and setbacks. The chance to strike it rich. For some, the motivation was pure gold. In 1848, James W. Marshall discovered gold at Sutter's Mill in what is now Northern California. The news quickly spread, and the California gold rush was on. By 1852, more than 300,000 people had moved to California to seek their fortunes. So as we think about this text, we're really imagining what were some of the reasons why people chose to leave their homes in the eastern part of the United States. And if we look at this map, the green is what the original United States was looking like. And then when the United States purchased the Louisiana Purchase from the French, then it added a lot more territory onto the United States at that time. And people were, as they were traveling, they had no clue what it was really like, because we didn't have things like phones to send a picture. And we didn't have telephones even to be able to call and let people know. So people were relying on letter writing and descriptions from friends to let them know what it was like